Okay, students, for today's Dewey-ing history inquiry, we're going to talk about the question of when is war justified. We'll start with this question-focused document of a image made by James Montgomery Flagg titled "Wake Up America, 1917." Who is this sleeping here? And what is civilization calling for America to do? Looking at this image, what appears to have been the problem facing America in the past? What's the issue here? Oops. What kinds of things do you see going on in the background? What is this rising from the events? After you've identified what appears to be the problem facing America in the past, generate a question about the document. In order to understand this debate, we're going to have to talk about what the idea actually means. What does justified mean? When is war justified? So to be able to explain what this question means, we need to go look at the definition of justified. If you justify something, I like the second one, to provide a good reason for the actions of someone. You can give good reasons. So if we were to apply that to the question, when is war justified? When do we have good reasons to go to war? Does that definition help us explain what this concept means? So if what we're trying to figure out is when are we justified or when do we have good reasons to go to war, then we're trying to find out when's it okay for America to fight. For our formative task number 1, we're going to research contemporary policy debates. Remember that John Dewey said history deals with the past, but this past is the history of the present. We've got two choices for this one. There's the ongoing war in Afghanistan or a response to the recent Russian hacking. So choice number 1, you all may know that we've been fighting in Afghanistan since 2001, before you were all born. That was caused by our pursuit of terrorist Osama bin Laden, who had planned the attacks on 9/11. I would suggest we focus on this one, but just for your curiosity, there's been a new form of warfare that's developed in the 21st century. It's cyber warfare. One of the countries that has been most involved in this type of warfare is Russia. If you're interested in this, you're going to watch the video to learn about the recent Russian hack. But for the purposes of this assignment, we're going to talk about the war in Afghanistan. If you need more context to understand what led to it, you can go to this timeline, but we're just going to watch this video.
If you want to sell online, make sure
Donald Trump campaigned in 2016 on ending America's wars abroad. In the final days of his presidency, he's acting to cut numbers in both Iraq and Afghanistan. From 4,500 in Afghanistan, the number will drop to 2,500. It'll be the same number in Iraq, where there are currently more than 3,000 personnel. This is...
Okay. Simply enough, what is still occurring in Afghanistan? What is America still doing? Fighting a... So what has Trump just announced to solve this policy problem? What did he just say he was going to do related to troop numbers in Iraq and Afghanistan? What's going to happen to the number of soldiers? What did the video just tell us? Go back and listen again. It says right here. U.S. troop withdrawals.
He's acting to cut numbers in both Iraq and Afghanistan. From 4,500 in Afghanistan, the number will drop to 2,500. It'll be the same number in Iraq, where there are currently more than 3,000 personnel.
This is consistent with our established plans and strategic objectives, supported by the American people, and does not equate to a change in U.S. policy or objectives.
Afghanistan is the US's longest war. It's lasted 19 years. More than 2,300 soldiers have died. It's cost more than $193 billion.
Okay. What facts did we just learn about the war? Consider how long it has lasted, how many soldiers have died, and how much money it has cost America. Would those three reasons be a reason people would support us taking out troops, working to end the war?
Earlier this year, the US, with the help of Qatar, negotiated a deal with the Afghan Taliban to bring a permanent ceasefire and remove all foreign forces out of the country by May next year. In October, Donald Trump tweeted he wanted all US service personnel home by Christmas, December 25th.
What he's leaving Biden is something that, again, in the long run is probably where we would have ended up with eventually anyway, but the timing is seen as very rash and dangerous.
Donald Trump has announced troop withdrawals in the past.
Let's allow them to explain that idea a little bit more. Why do they think this withdrawal right now is dangerous?
Famously tweeting in 2018 that he wanted all US service personnel out of Syria. That announcement led in part to the resignation of then Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. The military slow-rolled that idea then, but it's clear that Donald Trump wants the troops out, and on the timetable he's announced. But the decision has brought criticism even from his own side. President Barack Obama pulled troops out of Iraq just before the end of his time in office, honoring an agreement and a deadline set by his Republican predecessor. But Republicans claim that move led to the growth of ISIL, a risk one senator says Trump is taking now.
I think it's extremely important here in the next couple of months not to have any earth-shaking changes with regard to defense and foreign policy. I think a precipitous drawdown in either Afghanistan or Iraq would be a mistake.
The head of NATO has warned of a quick, uncoordinated withdrawal, saying it risks lives. But it's clear Donald Trump wants to leave office, claiming another campaign promise has been delivered. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, at the White House.
So when we heard them talking about why they're opposed to this change right now, it mentioned what had happened under Obama, the idea that when Obama withdrew troops in the past, it allowed a terrorist organization called ISIL or ISIS to develop. Some people oppose us withdrawing from Afghanistan because they don't think the war is over and they're worried about terrorists coming back to life in Afghanistan, just like they were before our war started. So, what do you think? Should we withdraw troops from Afghanistan? Should we work to end the war that's been going on for 19 years? Or should we stay and continue to fight in order to prevent terrorists from taking back over Afghanistan? I guess I should clarify, not really take over, but under the Taliban, the previous government, and the current government of Afghanistan, they allowed terrorist organizations to have a safe haven in Afghanistan. Should we, if we don't trust the Taliban, to not allow that to happen again, stay and fight, continue to fight terrorists in Afghanistan? All right, after you've answered that question, let's move on to formative task number 2. We're going to research related past policy case study. We're going to talk about Senate Joint Resolution number 1. Again, trying to find out, when is war justified? Policy case study of Senate Joint Resolution Number 1. This title will tell us what we need to know, really. Declaring that a state of war exists between the Imperial German government and the government of the United States. The policy read, whereas the Imperial German government has committed repeated acts of war against the government and the people of the United States of America, therefore be it resolved that the state of war between the United States and the Imperial German government, which has thus been thrust upon the United States, is hereby formally declared. What did we just do? What did the United States Congress just declare? Who did they declare it on? That the President be and he is hereby authorized and directed to employ the entire naval and military forces of the United States and the resources of the government to carry on war against the Imperial German government, and to bring the conflict to a successful termination. All of the resources of the country are hereby pledged by the Congress of the United States. What has Congress just done in this paragraph? What did they just give the president the responsibility to do? Use the military to carry on a war against. All right, so there's a lot of words here, but to make it simple, what did the United States just do in Senate Joint Resolution Number 1? What did they declare? Who did they declare it on? That's what you need to know for Senate Joint Resolution Number 1. Now we need to find out what was going on at the time, what led to it being debated. We want to consider what's going on in Europe, what has Germany been doing to ships in the ocean, and what did Germany just telegram to Mexico? Scroll down to our historic context. So we don't need to talk a whole lot about this because you learned about it in world history. Back in June of 1914, the leader of Austria-Hungary, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was assassinated by a Serbian national. In world history, you learned about nationalism. You learned that the Serbians wanted to create their own country, so they killed one of the leaders of the country that was in charge of them. Austria-Hungary was not super happy about a Serbian killing their leader, the Archduke, so they prepared for war with Serbia. Russia, who was Serbia's ally, got ready to defend Serbia, and then Germany, who was Austria-Hungary's ally, declares war on Russia and France. And the Germans marched through Belgium to attack France. Is all of this sounding familiar? When France got attacked by Germany, other nations joined. Bulgaria and Turkey joined Germany and Austria-Hungary and what become the Central Powers. France, England, Russia joined the Allied Powers. At this point in 1914, President Woodrow Wilson says the United States is going to remain neutral. We're going to stay out of the war. So what was going on in Europe? What do you know this as? World War. What was going on in World War I? On February 15th, 1915, Germany declared the water around the British Isles a war zone. So Germany is fighting a war against Great Britain. They tell ships that you should not sail to Great Britain because we are fighting Great Britain and we will sink your ship. They warned that all ships may be attacked by U-boats, these submarines. Wilson responds by saying Germany will be accountable for American deaths. In 1915, the British ship, the Lusitania, is sunk by a German U-boat. Out of the 1,198 people who died, 128 of them are American. Can you imagine the reaction of many Americans of these other Americans being killed by Germans? In November of 1916, Woodrow Wilson was reelected under the campaign that said he kept us out of the war. So a lot of Americans, even though other Americans had died, were still fans of remaining neutral because of their fears of war. And then in February of 1917, you may have heard about this again in world history, German Foreign Minister Zimmermann sent an encrypted telegram to Mexico asking them to join Germany in the war against the U.S. In return, Mexico will get back territory lost to the U.S. in the Mexican-American War. The states of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California are only part of America because we won them or took them after the Mexican-American War. The British had intercepted this telegram from Germany to Mexico and sent it to the United States. So why would Germany ask Mexico to help them fight America? If America is defending their homeland against Mexican forces in America, where are they not going to send troops? But why would the British want to send this telegram to the United States? Why might the British want us, America, to join the war? Whose side would we join? Okay, so before we start talking about the evidence, I need to explain a little bit more about the supporting question, which reads, what reasons do some people give to justify the United States following a hawkish military policy? Hawkish is a term that's thrown around when talking about people who are more likely to favor using the military. If we're talking about birds, a hawk is kind of a predatory bird. They are more likely to use force in order to catch their prey. So hawkish policy is going to be somebody who believes that we should use our military force in order to accomplish what we want to accomplish. For this, we're going to listen to a song. In 1916, Jack Gallo and George Kraft wrote a song titled Wake Up America. So our goal in listening to this song is to find out why we should follow a hawkish policy. So we're going to listen to the audio. Sorry, no problem there.
Have we forgotten America? The battles our fathers fought. Are we ashamed of our history in the peace that fighting brought? Must we be laughed at America while our souls turn weak with wrath? Is the blood of our fathers wasted? And how have we treated the cross? Is Columbia the strength of the ocean? Is Old Glory the pride of the free? Let's forget every selfish emotion. United forever, let's be. Wake up, America. If we are called to war, are we prepared to give our lives for our sweethearts and our wives, for our mothers and our homes worth fighting for? Let us pray God for peace, but peace with honor. But let's get ready to answer duty's call. So when Old Glory stands unfurled, that is seen to all the world, America is ready, that's all. Do you remember George Washington, that winter at Valley Forge? Jackson and Custer and Farragut, and Perry at Fort George. McKinley and Lincoln were fighting men, and the heroes our country knew. Simply crawl through our history's pages. Just think what they've done all for you. Made Columbia the strength of the ocean. Made Old Glory the pride of of devotion. Oh, what is our history to be? Wake up, America, if we are called to war. Are we prepared to give our lives for our sweethearts and our wives, for our mothers and our homes worth fighting for? Let us pray, God, for peace with honor. But let's get ready to answer duty's call.
I won't make you guys listen to the rest of it. What lyrics in here point out why America should not hesitate to use our military force? Will fighting bring peace? Must we be laughed at? We don't want other countries to think they can take advantage of us, right? We don't want our swords to turn weak with rust. What are we supposed to stand up and fight for? Does it mean to be the pride of the free? And these ideas here. Are we prepared to give our lives for our sweethearts and our wives? Are our mothers and our homes worth fighting for? Why should we use our military? After you've picked some lyrics to focus on, tell me the main ideas of those lyrics, and then tell me why those matter for today's debate over justifying military force. Why do some people still believe we should follow hawkish policy? Why do some people believe using our military is the best way to accomplish some of our goals and policy? For section 2, we're trying to find out what reasons do some people give to justify the United States following a dovish military policy. We're going to listen to another song, this one written by Irving Berlin, called Stay Down Here Where You Belong. Just so you know, the lyrics of Stay Down Here Where You Belong are a conversation between the devil and his son. The devil wants the son to stay down here where you belong because people on earth do not know right from wrong. His son wants to go up, above, up, above. And we're going to listen to the audio here.
Down below, at the devil talking to his son, who wanted to go up above, up above. He cried, it's getting too warm for me down here, and so I'm going up on up where I can have a little fun. The devil simply shook his head and answered his son. Stay down here where you belong. The folks who live above you don't know right from wrong. To please their king, they've all gone out to war. And not a one of them knows what he's fighting for. Way up above, they say that I'm a devil and I'm bad. Kings up there are bigger devils than your dad. They're breaking the hearts of mothers, making butchers out of brothers. You'll find more hell up there than there is down below. Kings up there, they don't care for the mothers who must stay at home. Their powers to bear, stay at home. Don't you roam. Although it's warm down below, you'll find it warmer up there. If there you wait up there, my son, I know you'd be surprised. You'll find a lot of people who are not civilized. Stay down here where you belong. The folks who live above you don't know right from wrong. To please their king, they've all gone out to war.
We don't have to listen to the whole chorus again. What's the idea here? Why does the devil not want his son to go up above? What did he say the kings are doing? What's this lyric mean? What's going to break the hearts of mothers? What's he mean by making butchers of their brothers? What's going to be a consequence of war based on what this song is saying? And what does the devil say about war? After you've selected a lyric to focus on, tell me what the lyric means and tell me why that's related to today's debate over justifying military force and dovish policies. What from that lyric is related to why people today want us to hesitate and really restrict how often we use our military? What do they fear is always going to be a consequence of war? All right, choices and consequences. We need to find out what policymakers decided to do, why they made that choice, and what are the consequences of that policy decision. Because you learned about this in world history, I didn't need to tell you too much about the results of the debate, but you need to know that we declared war on Germany April 6, 1917. That's when we entered the war. But you already knew that we fought in the war. Why did we fight in the war? What are the things that Germany had done that made the American people unhappy with Germany? And how would that cause us to go to war? Why would that cause us to go to war? American civilians had died, right? Typically, Americans don't respond well to Americans getting killed. I believe that's one of the reasons why they made the choice to declare war on Germany. Oops. Now, what are the consequences of this? By the time Germany signed the armistice on November 11, 1918, the United States had sustained an estimated 360,000 casualties in the First World War, including 126,000 killed in action and 234,000 wounded. What was the consequence for many of the soldiers who fought in World War I? What happened to some of these American soldiers? But also, a consequence was which side won? Was America on the winning side? Should that matter? So, two consequences. We helped the Allies win the war, but what was a consequence for some of the American soldiers? All right, before you create your policy advice, let's do a comparison between the two policy debates. What's the similarity? In both cases, what are we debating? Whether or not America should fight. In the past, what were we debating? Should America go to war with whom? What are we debating today? Not whether or not we should go to war, but whether or not we should end the war, correct? Should we start to draw down troops in Afghanistan? Okay, after you've compared both sides, make your decision. Should you support or oppose Trump's withdrawing troops from Afghanistan? Based on what you learned about the war in Afghanistan, how long it's lasted, how many soldiers have died, how much money it has cost, versus the risks of continuing the war or not continuing the war, tell me, should we support or oppose withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan? Remember to use your guiding section questions, your supporting questions, to help you figure out which documents best fit which part of the policy advice. If you're going to argue for dovish policies, would a dove support or oppose trying to end the war? Think about that. If you have questions, let me know.